You are listening to 52 Ways, a podcast by Scott and Christian Milford. This is how you love one another.
Cornflakes.
I said I was going to kick it off.
I wanted to.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the 52 Ways podcast, where Christian and I are going to talk about how Jesus loved each other and how we should do what he did.
And cornflakes.
And cornflakes. He wants to talk about cornflakes. I don't even think he likes cornflakes.
No, they're horrible.
They're pretty bad.
That's what I wanted to talk about. So
I mean,
why
they're
is it so
frosted.
popular?
I think they started out being popular, but then they introduced frosted.
Those are a little better, but then they're just a little too sweet. But they're better than the other.
Well, but I think when they introduced frosted flakes,
yeah,
cornflakes became like the ugly redheaded stepchild. No offense to redheads like me and my two daughters.
That was very mean.
You ever heard that phrase?
Sure.
Yeah, I've heard that phrase. I'm not offended a lot, but I'll be honest. At school, like in college, occasionally I would hear this phrase. She's like a redheaded stepchild. I'm like, man, that's just offensive.
Wasn't that like reference to Annie?
It probably is. Well, no, stepchild, not orphan child.
Oh.
It's just generally saying like redheads are not appreciated and stepchildren are not appreciated, which is just not true. I love my redhead girls.
Yeah.
You had red hair when you were born.
I'll be quiet.
When you were born, I came running out to the hallway where my family was all waiting, and I said, "He's a redhead." I think it was just blood.
That's as what.
I think it was.
As what? Wait, were you actually serious?
Yeah, I think it was. Yeah, I give it because you were bleeding from your scalp because they had to use the suction cup to get you out, and you get cut the skin on your head.
I thought you were joking.
No, I think that's what made me think you were a redhead.
Okay.
Back to cornflakes.
Yeah, cornflakes. How do we get from that to cornflakes?
I don't know, but no. You know what I think is cornflakes?
What
is that? Somebody leaked this whole thing in the Supreme Court this week.
How did you just compare that?
Because
to
it's cornflakes. It's crazy. Cornflakes are crazy.
That's not what people say.
Well,
I think
it's a big problem.
I think the okay. Here's the thing: cornflakes or the non-honey nut Cheerios. Would you rather? The non-honey honey nut Cheerios.
Straight up Cheerios?
Yeah.
Oh, probably the Cheerios.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, probably the Cheerios. Okay, next. The honey nut version or the sweetened cornflakes.
Honey nut.
Yeah.
Yeah. Put some bananas in there.
Ew.
That's good.
No.
It's
then
good.
The bananas get soggy.
So here's why I bring up the Supreme Court thing from this week. This is the week, if you're listening to this podcast like in 2024 or something, this is the week where we found out that the Supreme Court is planning to overturn, or at least writing up some opinions to overturn Roe versus Wade. And it got leaked ahead of time, which has never really happened before, I guess, in the Supreme Court. And I don't really know much about these things, but, as they're writing and preparing opinions for somebody that's trusted in the Supreme Court to leak that, they've got a motive, they got an ulterior motive. And of course, the Democrats are blaming the Republicans, and the Republicans are blaming the Democrats.
I don't think the Democrats are blaming the Republicans.
Well, that's how they're saying it.
I don't think so.
I think it would be really, really funny and ironic if it turns out to be a Republican that did it.
I don't think they are, because it only can benefit the Democrats in this situation.
Well, I think there's ways it could benefit either. Because it's going to energize both sides. It's going to energize the base of both sides.
I'm 99% sure that it was a Democrat, because then they can pack the court, and then there's
a lot of Democrats that are 100% sure it was a Republican, because so now you're starting to see the tie to this podcast. This is why I bring up the cornflakes connection to the Supreme Court leak now to our podcast today.
Yeah, I was actually listening to on the way home from school, or a few days ago, I was listening to the one show that I really like listening to.
Unbelievable?
No.
Jeff Reardon?
No.
Dave Glover?
No.
Okay, I don't know then.
No,
Seinfeld?
The one guy that you know.
Oh, Mark Cox?
Definitely don't know. No, not Mark Cox. The other guy.
Oh, Mark Reardon.
Mark Reardon. Yeah.
What did I
was
say?
listening to Mark Reardon. What?
I said a different first name.
I don't know.
Mark
Reardon. So I was listening to Mark Reardon. He's a pretty cool guy, and he was talking to this Democrat, and
he was talking to a Democrat?
Yeah.
Okay.
He's talking to a Democrat. And I'm a Republican by myself. I don't agree with all of them, everything that they believe in, but I am. And normally there's a lot of, and this ties to loving one another. But normally everyone's like, you can't respect people from your other side if you have different beliefs. And there's been times that I have gotten myself in situations where it's very hard to love someone who has a different belief than you, such as being Democrat or Republican. But this person, she was a Democrat, full blown Democrat, and I felt like based off of what she was saying, she's very respectful. She was listening to everyone. She agreed with a lot of things that we were saying. That Mark Reardon was saying about how certain things are unfair, like such as censorship of Republicans, things like that. And she was a great lady. It seemed like, and I know she, of course, she believed in abortion. She said that, but I just felt like I was like, wow, she is a really respectful Democrat. And I feel like
Nice.
I know that definitely on both sides, there's a lot of disrespect on both sides, definitely, but I definitely like have not personally seen a lot, I mean, not knowing a lot of Democrats or hearing a lot of Democrats always in on both sides, but particularly what I have heard is that the Democrats are always like getting very mad at certain things and all that stuff. And normally with like the court case right now, all the Democrats would be up in the air, saying that this is horrible and this is like the end to democracy. But she was very calm,
Mm.
and they were, and she was just a really respectful person.
Well,
I
good.
went way too long on that.
No, it's fine. No, I think it's a great experience for you. And you're right. You haven't been around a lot of folks that have a different worldview than we do in your life. And
Yeah.
you've kind of been brought up in a bit of a protective bubble. And when you got into the real world, you're going to see that there's a lot more out there than just that. And I think it's great that you experienced that and heard someone respectful, because there's a million respectful Democrats out there. You might marry a liberal someday. Who knows? Wouldn't that be something? He's speechless. No, but I
I'm
think
not going to
that's
comment on that.
I
at
think
all.
that's really important though to understand that just because someone is a Democrat or a liberal or disagrees with you, really just putting it broadly, disagrees with you, does not mean that they're mean or they're easily, ready to fight and try to beat you down. Like there's very classy people on both sides of the aisle. And I think that's part of the reason we're doing this podcast actually is because we've forgotten that. We think that everybody that disagrees with us needs to be beat up and we got to prove them wrong. And so what we're going to do is we're learning from Jesus how to go about handling situations in life. Whether it's easy to love somebody or difficult to love somebody, let's learn from Jesus how to do it. So that's what we're doing here. And I loved your thought there, Christian, but I also had a transition I was going to make to get into our passage for the day, and now I'm blanking out on it.
That can be the transition because
be the
it
transition.
actually does have to do with aggression.
Yeah.
So
It does. I know that is a good tie. No, there was another point I was going to make, but I will see if it comes back to me as we discuss this thing. So today, as we get into our scripture, we are on way number 18. So this is our 18th episode and 52 ways to love one another like Jesus loved us. And so this is way number 18. And I hope that we can take this and apply it into our lives. And this one's kind of a complicated one. It's a little bit of a different one because this is a time when Jesus got really upset and had to kind of take a stand for some wrong that was going on. And, so that's where the tie to this Supreme Court thing maybe comes in. There might be an opportunity here to follow Jesus's lead and take a stand for, for something that's wrong that's going on.
actually, I completely forgot what I was about to say.
Man, we're just all forgetting.
No, I can do this.
We don't want dead air.
Yeah, we don't. We'll just keep on saying. Oh man. Okay, you
Well,
just keep on talking. and
I'm
I'll
calling
think.
this episode a holy cleansing.
Oh yes, I remembered.
Oh,
okay,
that triggered.
so I heard someone once say that if it wasn't for this verse where Jesus got really angry, the expectancy to be a Christian would be much more of a what are those people called who don't have electricity?
Like a minimalist or like
Yeah,
an
well,
Amish or
an Amish, yeah. Like the life would be a lot more Amish like because
like our lives would be.
like a lot more peaceful like because like they would have, this is literally the only time in all the Bible where Jesus has gets angry, which of course he gets angry, but like literally like through physical aggression gets angry. And since there's no other instance of that in the Bible, there would be basically no excuse for a righteous anger besides this verse. Actually, I didn't hear that. I just came up with it on the spot.
No, that's good. No,
I think
that's interesting. You think you came up with it on the spot?
I don't know.
You may have heard it somewhere in a podcast, like the Unbelievable podcast. That's what I was going to say. There's a podcast out there called Unbelievable Justin
Briley.
Briley. And he's actually from England, and it's really good because they debate all these Christian versus atheist kind of topics, but they do so very civilly. And I'm
Except
really,
for that one.
yeah, there's once in a while somebody gets riled up.
That
But
was so funny.
actually, it was a Christian guy.
Yeah.
What's his
It
name?
was so
From
funny.
Marcel out in Seattle. But yeah, he got real mad. But that's unusual for this podcast. And Justin Briley, was it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he does a great job of moderating and keeping it very civil, and I just appreciate it so much. And Christian and I have had a chance to listen to a lot of those and discuss very difficult topics on creation versus evolution and abortion and all these things. So I totally recommend that podcast called Unbelievable. But today, yeah, we're going to hear about Jesus cleansing the temple, a holy cleansing. So let's just get into it. It's Matthew 21, just 2 verses today, verses 12 and 13. So it says, Jesus entered the temple and began to drive out all the people buying and selling animals for sacrifice. He knocked over the tables of the money changers and the chairs of those selling doves. He said to them, the scriptures declare, my temple will be called a house of prayer, but you have turned it into a den of thieves. So let's break this down. So what's going on here? Christian, do you want to tell us when this is happening and why
Well,
they're
this
in there
is happening
doing this?
whenever Jesus is alive. And Jesus is something called righteous anger. That's what everyone calls it.
No.
What?
Yeah, I thought. Well, yeah, that's
Yeah,
true.
yeah.
That's
What?
true. But no, so when this is happening, it's really shortly after he comes into Jerusalem when his triumphal entry, the week
And
leading
his
up to his
donkey.
arrest on his donkey. Yeah.
Oh.
And, Palm Sunday, they're throwing palms down and all that. This
Yeah.
is really right after that. He goes into the temple, and there's some discussion. Did it happen right after, or was it the next day? I think there's some discrepancy.
Does it really matter?
Well, it probably doesn't, but I think one of the other gospels, maybe Mark, talks about it being the next morning, and Matthew makes it sound like it's right away. Not a huge deal, but yeah. So what's happening here is everybody's coming to Jerusalem because this is Passover.
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
And so they have to bring a sacrifice, so they have to buy an animal to sacrifice once they get to Jerusalem, because they don't want to have to lug an animal with them for their 5-day journey or whatever on the way to Jerusalem. So so it's acceptable. It's like a normal practice where there's all these animals for sacrifices being sold in like the temple courtyard there at this massive temple complex. Like the temple itself is huge. It's like several city blocks huge. It's a big area, and it's, there's an outer court and an inner court and all this. So these people are buying or not buying, but they're selling these animals to be sacrificed when the Jews get inside to do their sacrifice. But what's happening is they're taking advantage of the people that have come for Passover, right, Christian?
Yes.
Daydream in there a little bit?
No.
and there's all kinds of money changing going on because there's different currencies. So people are bringing the currencies from their area into Jerusalem, and they have to exchange, and it's very complicated. And so there's a lot of trickery and sleight of hand. It always reminds me of the Karate Kid 2 scene.
The weight thing?
Yeah, where
I
they got the
remember that,
weights
yeah.
and they snap them, and they're like made out of clay.
And that young guy's like,
you made
so mad at me.
Yeah, you ruined my
made
honor.
me dishonor, even though I was a thief.
Yeah.
Now I kill you.
You proved that I'm a thief. I had honor before it was proven, but now I don't. But it's kind of the same thing. So Jesus comes in and he's mad. Now, here's an interesting thing, Christian. I don't know if I didn't really remember this, but John, I think it is, talks about an earlier time when this same thing happened. So this isn't the first time that Jesus did this. He did it one other time. I thought I had a note of when it was. I think it's in John, though. Early in his ministry, maybe a couple of years before, the same thing is going on, and Jesus comes in and says, knock it off. And now here he is coming in, and this is the week he knows he's going to be arrested and crucified, and he is just not having it. Like he is done with seeing this happen to his people, the Jews, like the people that he's been ministering to, the people that God, his father, had chosen all through the Old Testament, and he's going to let these folks have it for ripping off the Jews. So I think this is complex, because how do you love but still tell people no, still say what you're doing is wrong? And this is back to that question, what does love require of me? And in this moment, Jesus shows us that sometimes love requires us to take action. So he uses more force this time than he did in John whenever they were doing this. He's taking a stand for his father's house, the temple. and he's digging a stake in the ground and saying, no, this is not going to happen. And so he's holding these people accountable for doing the things that he had told them previously not to do. But there's one other big thing that he's doing, and I think this is really huge, and maybe it's even the headline of the story. He's taking a stand for and protecting the Jewish people. So the Jewish people see him. They just got done saying, singing Hosanna, glory in the name of the Lord, like all these things that they're singing to him as he's entering into Jerusalem. And now he's taking a stand for them. And so they're like, man, this is our guy. This is the king. This is the Messiah. He's our guy. Let's look at him taking a stand for us as he's standing up to these dishonest money changers. And it's very much like a parent standing up for their kids. So I didn't ask you this ahead of time, Christian, but can you remember a time that I stood up for you on anything? Please say you do.
Not off the top of my. Something tells me you do remember a time.
Well,
Oh,
I don't necessarily. Although I guess we could talk about the time that you fell down that.
that's not really standing.
Well,
Or
like
I thought you meant
I
like
came to
person
your
against
rescue kind of
person.
thing. It is kind of more like person against, but it's more the idea that that a parent will kind of go into savior mode whenever their kid is being attacked or their kid is in danger. The idea, like my dad always told me, boy, if anybody ever broke into our house and was gonna shoot you, I would jump right in front of that bullet. And I was always like, you would? Oh my gosh. That was always amazing to me. And now that I'm a dad, absolutely, I'd be the first one to dive in front of that bullet. And really,
Then you
that's what
just
Jesus is
go
doing.
and shoot us.
What's that?
Then you just go shoot us right afterwards.
Or maybe he would be so full of remorse from killing somebody that he would just take off running. Who knows?
Or since he broke into our house, he would be considered a psychopath and just kill us.
He might just do that. But
And then your death
all
was
I can
literally
do is
useless.
let's try. And if I didn't try, and then one of you guys got shot, now I'm going to live the rest of my life knowing I was
Or
too
you'll
much of
die.
a coward. Huh?
Or you'll just die right.
Or I would just die right after. Yeah. But anyway, that's the point though. So Jesus, love requires him to take a stand for his people in this moment. And he's willing to raise his voice. He's willing to turn over tables and tell people, you got to stop this. And I think that's okay. I mean, obviously Jesus did it. It's okay. And I think we can take a cue from that. And when there's a situation going on where a wrong is being done, we need to take a stand for it. And I think that, you get into politics, and that's obviously a concept that can be applied to a million places in politics. But I think it isn't probably as simple as that, because that seems like it would give justification to everybody who ever like went overboard trying to take a stand against something that was going on that was wrong. Like how Jesus followed up with this, I don't know. Like, was it just like he turned the tables over and then they left and that was the end of it? I don't know. But then again, he did go and die for those people shortly after as well. So that probably means something. But
So are you going to apply that to the court case?
to the Supreme Court
Yeah.
thing? Well, I don't know. I hadn't thought about
I thought that's what you were
specifically.
deciding to do.
Um,
I would say one thing that's a little scary. You guys probably know who Elizabeth Warren is, but I was hearing her reaction to the court case, and it was like in the middle of the night. She's like about to walk onto a plane, and she was literally like very, very angry. She's like, the Republicans have been plotting this for like decades right afterwards, and they just now are executing it, all this blah 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 blah. But the problem is that, and Dad, this will be a question for you. She would call that righteous anger. Like what she was, I don't know if she's a Christian or not, but if she is, she would definitely call that righteous anger. Yeah. How do you differentiate to that?
Well, so it's I think recognizing what you just said shows a lot of maturity, actually. So I think recognizing that her viewpoint being different than ours, she is taking a stand for what she thinks is right.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so on topic of abortion, she doesn't probably view it as murder. She views it as a woman's right, and that it's not a baby, it's a fetus and whatever.
Oh, and Joe Biden called it a baby when he was.
Well, let's not get too distracted.
It was really funny. I heard it, and
yeah,
they were talking about it, and his first speech right afterwards.
Well, he's a Catholic, and he wishes there were no abortions, but he believes it's a woman's right to choose to do that. So there's a lot of Democrats that are on.
Well, then he believes it is okay.
No, that he would say he doesn't. So we don't need to speak for Joe Biden here, but that's where a lot of people are. They wish that it didn't ever have to happen, but they also believe that it's a woman's right to choose, and constitutionally they believe that that's where the issue is.
No, actually,
It totally is. I'm telling you,
No, no,
that's
the
that's where a lot of people
constitutional
believe.
thing. A lot of people, even Democrats, what I was hearing is that they actually don't believe based on the Constitution because there was no such thing. Well, there were abortions back then, but like not to the medical standards and degrees that there were now.
Okay.
So
Well,
basing it
whether
off of
it's
a constitutional right is actually not what they were
well,
basing
whether it's
what Roe v. Wade
constitutional
should have
right
done.
versus just what they believe to be morally right. I mean, that I wasn't trying to say specifically constitution. I'm just they generally believe that the right thing is for a woman to choose. So let's not get into that because that's not the point of this. But the fact though that Elizabeth Warren believes that a wrong is being done here and she's taken a stand for what she believes to be right is really the same thing that the conservatives and the Christians in the world have been saying all along about how we shouldn't allow abortions because we're trying to take a stand for what we believe to be right. And I think that as we try to learn how to use the fruits of the spirit and love people the way Jesus did, I think just seeing that and understanding that people are not just pure evil when they disagree with us, they're coming at it with a perspective that they really believe is the moral high ground. And they think that we are taking the moral low ground because we don't respect women and we don't think that women should have a right to choose what happens to their bodies. So, it's like in some ways, yeah, I think women should have the ability to make choices for their own health and bodies, but I just don't think that this is one of those situations that fits that description
No,
because there's
not you
another life
think,
at stake here.
you know.
Right. Well, yeah, of course. But I'm just saying, like, there's another life at stake here. And so, just like, if it was a child outside the womb, and I don't think it'd be okay for a mom to make a decision to kill their child. So it's to me it's the same concept, but that's the disagreement
Yeah.
about whether it's a child before it's out of the womb.
I heard one thing. I know this is not really off topic. It kind of is, but I heard one thing saying that everyone believes in abortion. I think it was a pastor was talking about this. But he was saying how everyone does, and the reason why is he gave this example of or theoretical situation of what if parents who didn't want their children outside of the womb from up to the age of 18 could go to a center and have them murdered.
Yeah.
What, like, wouldn't that just be, there would be there would be riots,
Well, clearly.
everything. Well, that's exactly what it is. So there has to be, us, we disagree with it, but we're not, I mean, I know we know that mom does it sometimes, but we're not up there like literally like we don't have that same sympathetic like feel towards the people and the people in the womb than like children who are 18, like 1 to 18. Isn't that interesting?
I'm not sure I followed the last part.
We just don't have the same like we don't feel the same that if 1 to 18-year-olds were getting murdered at this at a place than like fetuses, right?
We don't feel the same.
We don't, what would we have the same we don't have this, we would be very angry
Oh, like if 1 to 18-year-olds were.
if
Yeah, so that is an
if
interesting thing.
18 and under were, if it was under the Constitution for if parents wanted to murder their children because they didn't want them under the 18 they could, under the age of 18 they could.
Yeah. But you're saying we don't like the fact that abortions are legal.
It's
but
more,
yet we haven't gone to every extreme to get rid of it.
no, it's more of like that we've been conditioned to believe that it's kind of okay.
Oh, okay, I see what you mean.
Yeah.
Well, so we're just trying to. We didn't mean to get into a big abortion debate here, but we're using this as it's one of the most divisive topics in our country, probably in the world today, and it's in the news this week, so it seems relevant to bring it up. And I think it's okay based on what Jesus has done here for us to take a stand for the unborn children, take a stand for those who maybe don't have much of a choice. One of the things is that women oftentimes are victims where the men really force them into having an abortion.
Not a lot of times.
Well, there's data on that, Christian, and it shows that it's more of a thing than you might think. So there's a lot of victims when it comes to this topic, and some are obvious and some are not. But I guess my message for all of you that, and maybe nobody would even watch this, that is pro-abortion, but
They would have turned it off before.
they might have turned it off. But my message to you would just be, hey, we understand that you feel like you're doing what is the right thing to do, and I applaud you for that. I think you should always take a stand for what you think is right. We just disagree on what is right in this abortion equation. And so I would just say, let's still communicate, let's still be civil with each other, and let's try to seek to come to an end to this debate in a civilized manner, rather than holding up ugly signs against each other and calling each other names and treating each other like we're not worth anything, because that's not at all how we need to treat each other. Now, if you're right in the middle of it, and like Jesus said here, and we walk in on something and we try to put a stop to it, like there's moments where I think you have to just do what you got to do to take a stand for what's right. But when it comes to civil discourse, we oftentimes lose our minds and don't have civil discourse because we just get so angry and we're not willing to really talk things through. We lose respect for the people that have the opposite opinion. So my challenge for myself and Christian and all of you listening is never lose respect and compassion for the people that disagree with you, because there's somebody's mom, there's somebody's child too. Their mama loves them just like your mama loves you, and they're valuable even in God's eyes, and we need to always treat people with that perspective. So Christian, I know that we darted around there on an abortion topic. Any final thoughts that you have? If you want to comment on the thing I
No.
shut you down on, you can.
What?
The thing about dads, the men forcing women to have abortions. You seem to have a different opinion on that. Was there anything else?
You
there
just said a
wanted to
lot
say?
of the time, and it's not.
There, I don't know what a lot is, but
I would consider that over 50%.
well, that would be most of the time.
A lot.
I think that there's no way to really know for sure, because women aren't always going to admit that that's why they chose to come and do it, because
Mhm.
their boyfriend or husband made them. But a lot of men don't want a baby. They say, let's go get this taken care of. So it's a difficult and heartbreaking situation. And I just pray for the country this week and this month that this topic doesn't blow up into just a massive civil unrest type situation where
Kind of already
now
is.
that it's well, it's not like to the point of riots and killing. There was something in LA I saw, but it's not to the point where we had the race riots a few years ago and that just really blew up. I just pray that we don't end up having this be just another thing that blows up and causes our nation and our world to be even further divided between whether it be religion or politics or whatever. And this has the potential to do that. So,
yeah, and everybody was thinking that it was like a ban of abortion. It isn't. It's literally just allowing the states to
it's allowing the
make
states
the decision.
That's exactly
which
right.
I think is what should happen.
So that gets back to the conservative versus liberal, big government versus
Most
small
liberals
government.
believe that this is a complete ban off of abortion.
Yeah. So there, that's a good point, Christian. I'm glad you said that, because it is a matter of returning the decision to the states. And so there will be states, including Illinois, that will allow abortions, and there'll be a lot of states that don't. And I still wish they all didn't, but at least it's down to the state level, and that's more in alignment with, I think, the way that we would want it. Okay. Geez, heavy.
I'm used to it.
Yeah. Keep praying, everybody. And until next time, be well, my friends.
Love one another.